Every chess player has an approach to the game. It's a lens that filters out everything that is incomprehensible and infinite about the game and makes order out of the chaos. The way to most clearly see that there are different approaches to the game are the often obvious differences between chess values and basic intuitions that we see between players. Now, most players don't even know what their approach to the game is, or even know that they have one. And I am an example of that. I went most of my life without knowing what my chess values were. So it was kind of like being blind, but to myself, lacking self-knowledge. But no one told me about it, and that's why I'm making this video for you. A first step to finding out what kind of player you are is to ask which moves felt like epiphanies, like spiritual awakenings. Then you can ask, whose play do I understand? You don't have to be as strong as they are. You just need to get their moves. A player whose moves make sense to you. Once you find that champion, you can try to inhabit their mind, and they can show you the scope of your own chess soul. They can show you what you're capable of and the skills you would need to come closer to being inside that mind. I'll use myself as an example. Late in life, in my push to become a GM, I discovered that I understood Vasily Smyslov's play. But it took me years to put his approach into words and to name my chess values, mostly because I didn't know it was something I should be doing. So here's how I'll put Smyslov and my approach. We look at chess an entirely different way. We look at chess backwards. And what I mean by that is we idolize and dream about simple endings, positions with only a couple pieces on the board. The pawns are bystanders. Pawns are not people. What the symphony is about is the harmony of our own pieces. Maybe it's only 2 or 3, and the confusion of our opponent's pieces. In these simple positions, one poor piece will poison the harmony of the whole. And as an aesthetic, this harmony reveals itself most clearly in the endgame study. These studies give us great joy because they express the harmony that we want to find in the game. Then, using this intuition of harmony as our, let's call it, spiritual home, we then walk backwards to the beginning of the game. Yes, the opening and middle game are more complicated, but we are still employing the internalized sense of harmony that we've witnessed and proven in the endgame. And here is an obvious way this path is expressed in the opening and middle game. If our opponent offers us a pawn at the expense of our coordination, we're just not going to take it. In general, that's just not something we're going to do. Now, what does our champion say about us as people? Let's consider first the opposite of me and Smyslov, both as a player and a person in the world. It's Fischer and Kasparov. They don't look at chess backwards. For them, chess begins with many fine, polished opening weapons that they want to hurt you with in a very premeditated way. They enjoy your suffering. They want to push you off balance, gain the initiative, and most of all, they want to see you squirm. For them, the endgame is important, but it's just the finish. And I'm pretty sure they would laugh at all this spiritual stuff I'm talking about. In the real world, they're also vastly different from us as well. Fischer and Kasparov and players like them want power in the real world. And even if Kasparov didn't go insane, he did also end up as an exile shouting back at the seat of power across the ocean. It's a sharp contrast to me and Smyslov. Yes, we're also interested in how power works, but as students. But let me stress, it's not as if withdrawing into this world of being a monk warrior prevents you from being ridiculous. Smyslov knew that they were cheating for him in Zurich 1953, so that the American Reshevsky would have no chance. And that's just one instance in a long career, but he never did anything about it. Withdrawing from the world might seem more pure, but when you do so, you end up riding all the obvious injustices of the world like waves, not saying or doing anything about it. I'm trying to say that figuring out who you are is not necessarily some feel-good operation, but it is necessary to self-knowledge. Now, there are many more types of player out there, but in closing, I want to offer just one final thought. The type of player you are will not match, in my experience, with any political affiliation. Surprisingly, communists and capitalists can play the same chess. Who you are is therefore deeper than that political facade.